Hello everyone, I'm the Nerdy Fool and welcome back to Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. We are picking up where we left off, which feels like we are getting towards the end of this section, at least to my mind. We've fought several of the major people of this place. Had a bit of an encounter that we managed to talk our way out of with the leader here of the Anatomical Opera, which got us access to the rest of our crew in Ulfar, as well as fighting some of the leaders of the arena, and then the ambush that they had placed for us out here. So it feels like we're getting to the end. We had another chat with the Harlequin that has met with us a few times here, and he mentioned something about escape, going through the arena, I believe. So, yeah, feels like we're getting close. I think what we need to do first, though, is go to the pit to try and talk to our Dark Eldar friend, and see what's going on with him before we go to the arena. Yeah, let's head that way. In the meantime, though, there's been quite a few announcements from Owlcat about things coming up in the future, which are pretty cool. Their next game they're working on is Dark Heresy, which I am super excited for, because I've always been pretty interested in Warhammer 40k's Inquisition. And my tabletop group even played the Dark Heresy 2nd edition game for a while. So that's cool. I've also read several of the novels based on the Inquisition, namely the Eisenhorn trilogy. So excited for that when it comes out. They've also announced the next several DLCs. The one coming out in a month is about the Arbites, which I don't know a ton about the Arbites, but I think they're sort of an elite police force. So that'll be cool, I suppose. I'll get to know more about them. The other DLCs they've announced, the one coming after that, is following, or I guess investigating, a Necron homeworld, it sounds like. And that sounds like it could be really cool. And then the one after that is a ship graveyard going into some sort of horror nonsense. I doubt I'll still be playing the game by then. I'm sure I'll have beaten it. So that'll be disappointing. But yeah. Hope I'm still playing when we get to Necrons, because Necrons are cool. Anyway, we've made it to the pit. So let's talk to our various companions, and I'm sure our Dark Eldar companion that I don't remember his name is around here somewhere. Heinrich's stare seems to pass straight through you, but his face tenses almost to the point of twitching. He nods wordlessly to you. How is your recuperation progressing?
It will take some time. I can heal grievous wounds and correct disfigurement, but remake my nerve endings from scratch. Such delicate and painstaking work is beyond my capabilities. Every day with you brings new challenges.
Heinrich doublers the last part with a grim smile. I have something to tell you. Irlet confessed to killing Achilles Scalander. Do I state that? Probably, but not as our first statement. Because I don't want him to just run off and murder her. What do you know about this place?
Regrettably, little. Komorra is the city of the Drukhari, the sprawling xenos domain built in the very plexus of the webway. This is the home of their cabals, and the launch point for their raids into real space. The Xenos' most supreme leaders dwell within the shadows of this place, and this is where the Drukhari bring their bounty, as they have brought us.
Yep.
I would tell you more, but I can't. Not because of the prohibitions of the Inquisition, but because the information is fragmentary and unverified. Based on what we have learned here, we are in the prison of one of the arenas where the Drukhari killed their prisoners as public entertainment. These Xenos feed off pain, which means that entertainments like this are not a whim, but a necessity for these abominations. They need pain more than they need air to breathe, and so these performances must be held unceasingly, and raids to acquire new victims must continue without interruption.
Yeah, because the Drukhari, each of the Eldar branches found a different way to protect their souls from Slaanesh. And the Drukhari's is through causing pain and torture in others. Somehow that protects them. Yeah. How can we escape this place?
I cannot offer a ready-made escape plan, but I do know that the Drukhari are constantly vying and warring with one another. Their chiefs take pains to keep their servants from complete mutual destruction. If you can find a way to exploit their personal feuds, we might have the faintest chance of survival, and an opportunity to slip away.
Heinrich considers the question. Yeah, it seems like we've already started the infighting, so we're well on our way to that. Also, with him mentioning that the Inquisition knows so little about this place, assuming we do make it out, he should have a good report that he can give them. As someone who has gone here, lived to tell the tale, and escaped. Am I mistaken, or is the present company making you uncomfortable? Yeah. He's tolerated Irliet. He's tolerated Idira. I think those are the main two that he's disliked up till now. But if we do end up getting Morajai? Something like that. I'll need to see his name again to get it down in my head. If he does end up becoming a party member, or is maybe considered a party member already, I'm sure he's going to be a lot less thrilled by that. Am I mistaken, or is the present company making you uncomfortable?
Do you actually want to hear what I have to say on the topic? Or was that just a polite turn of phrase that demands only an equally polite and insincere? You are mistaken, Lord Captain.
I wish to know your opinion. It's that bad, is it? Or a polite turn of phrase? I wish to know his opinion. I will keep doing what I'm doing. But I am curious to hear exactly what he has to say on the subject.
I hope you do not need me to tell you that taking any Drukhari into your retinue is a stunt that falls somewhere between blasphemous heresy and incredible foolishness, let alone a Drukhari who has already succeeded in bringing myriad calamities down on our heads. I cannot imagine even one good reason why you should have taken this step, but I can think of plenty of bad ones, and that is what alarms and troubles me.
Yeah. I understand his being upset by the Drukhari. I'm curious if he has anything to say about the other two.
Iliad is directly responsible for us being lured into her kin's trap. They plotted against us together. That she herself ended up a captive only shows how nefarious and brutal these creatures are by their very nature. Whatever story she spun you, it was the height of naivety to believe it.
Possible, but I don't think so. She seems fairly sincere and honest. Yeah, and what we've seen of her people, besides the ones being led by the guy on Janus, who was entirely overly focused on the killing of humans to the point of ignoring Slaanesh, all the others that we've seen have been just refugees and survivors and have not been aggressive towards humans. So, yeah.
If I may be candid, I have certain reservations about Ulfar.
Oh.
There is no question that he is one of the Astartes, the divine warriors of the Emperor, and his help will be invaluable in our attempts to escape Camorra. However, as chapters go, the Space Wolves are extremely distinctive. I can't reveal all that I know without breaking the prohibitions of the Inquisition, but I'm asking you, be careful when dealing with the warrior.
Interesting. I did not think he would have any problems with Ulfar. I don't know a ton about Astartes. I know some. I've read a lot of several of the Horus Heresy novels, which go into the Astartes quite a bit. But not the Space Wolves specifically. So I don't know what sets them apart, or why the Inquisition would have specific secrets regarding them. That is interesting. Because, they are divine warriors of the Emperor. So the fact that he would be uncomfortable with one of them, that is very interesting. Alright. I have something to tell you. Iliad confessed to killing Achilles Scalander. Do we also... I hope we also let him know that she claims to have proof that he was betraying them or something. So it's not just she took out an agent of the Inquisition. Yeah. She confessed to killing Achilles Scalander.
By the throne! Why have you still not put the xenos to death? First treachery, and now the murder of an agent of the Golden Throne. What will it take for you to act? A knife in your own heart?
Yeah. So we didn't tell him anything. Heinrich stares at you without blinking, and his mouth twists into a pained grimace. I get where he's coming from. She said Scalander had betrayed the Imperium and was himself conspiring with Marjai. Nevertheless, I intend to keep her in my retinue. Just have to wait and see. We need every ally we can get in this place, if only to enable us to escape and continue to serve the Imperium. As soon as we escape this place, I'll be handing the xenos over to you. Do with her what you will. No. She said that Scalander had betrayed the Imperium and was himself conspiring with Marjai. But we don't have proof, and that's the problem.
Allow me to state the most likely version of events. The Xenos Iliad embarked on a plot with the Xenos Marjai. Achilles discovered said plot and paid for it with his life. And afterward, they fed you this poorly concocted tale to exonerate the enemies of humanity of wrongdoing.
I mean, he's not wrong. A dark and slightly crazed laugh bursts from the interrogator's lips. He breaks off after a moment and proceeds to speak in a measured, icy voice. It's definitely the simplest explanation. That doesn't necessarily mean it's right, though the simplest explanation is usually right. But I still believe her. But I get where he would not trust her. Both 2 and 3 are decent answers. Nevertheless, I intend to keep her in my retinue, because I think that is where I stand, but also just we'll wait and see. We could also go with 4 of we need every ally we can get in this place, if only to enable us to escape and continue to serve the Imperium. Which would explain why I might still work with Marjai a little bit farther. I really can't think of any good reason I would keep Marjai in my party long term. Yeah. Like, when playing CRPGs, I really don't want to get rid of party members. Like, I want to see all their stories, but there is very little to no redeeming qualities to him that I've seen so far. So, not sure how I'm going to play with that one. We need every ally we can get in this place, if only to enable us to escape and continue to serve the Imperium.
The Xenos Iliad must not be enjoying her sojourn in her cousin's capital if she is eager to help her own victim. The irony.
Heinrich lets his head fall back and thinks for a few moments. Then he laughs spitefully. Yeah, I get where you're coming from, Heinrich. I think you're wrong about her, but I definitely get where you're coming from. I must take my leave.
The Emperor protects.
Yep. Yeah. I'm not terribly surprised by how any of that played out.
May these instructions protect the machine spirits that serve me from the blasphemies of corrupted technology.
Okay, nothing new with you.
May the filters of knowledge bestow... May...
Okay. Let's see. We'll just swing around. Marjai is here. I'll talk to everyone else first. That way I'm talking to all of my crew. Also, still disappointed that I've got crew members with permanent injuries and there is no way to
came back from the dark,
fix them.
Unharmed.
Yeah.
So says a butterfly struggling in the dark city's web. I will be close, Elentak. and I will support you in the coming trials, if you choose to let me.
Yeah, wish there was a way to heal, but it doesn't seem, at least nothing I have seen so far. Nope, no one up there. That's just the commissar. Abelard's here, which we still haven't found a way to get his youth back, but that might need to just wait until we get back to our ship and get him a rejuvenation treatment of some sort.
Lord Captain.
Okay, nothing new from you. Cassia should have new stuff.
What a relief to be talking to you again. Your soul shines like the gold of the sun in the darkness of this place.
Frail figure, more like an echo of a living human, looks around in dismay. Cassia's disheveled hair is like a shaggy cloud around her haggard face. Her hands tremble as she hurries to smudge a bloody tear on her cheek. Yeah, to someone who can see all of the emotions going on around her, this place has to be awful. I've been through quite a bit of pain on your account. I'm not going to tell her that. It's somewhat true. But she also was going through a lot of pain on her own. But also, when we let her out and she kept blasting us with her third eye, that was less than awesome. How are you holding up?
Can words ever describe the joy of being free?
Cassia smiles wearily as she examines the wounds she inflicted on herself.
As for the rest, don't worry about it. I am the blood of House Orcelio, its heiress, and I will overcome any ordeal to return us to the Expanse.
Perfect. Do you know where we are? Yeah, I don't know. So the webway is different than the Imperium, where our ships normally travel through. Can she see the Astronomicon from the webway? That I don't know. I guess she can only see the Astronomicon when she's actually in the Imperium, because they flood the Navigator's corridors with the Imperium when they're traveling through the warp, I believe. So probably she can't see it when in real space, and this probably is equivalent to real space. I don't know. Do you know where we are?
Somewhere in the middle of the Dark City, I suppose. They say the human mind cannot fathom the bounds of this place, for the Imperium's largest hives look like grains of sand in comparison. A webway gate built by the ancient Eldari is the only way in. I think you realize as well as I do what that means for us.
We need to get out through a webway gate, yeah. Logic test failed. Apparently I don't know what that means. Interrogator Van Calix must have told Cassie about the Dark City during one of your warp voyages. Since day one, those two have preferred each other's company to anyone else's. I wonder what colors you see around you. I mean, I'm guessing various shades of red, black, and other grime, dark colors.
There was only pitch darkness inside the homunculus' artifact. But there is scarcely any more light in the streets of the Dark City, in whose blue-black haze I am almost blinded by pain. Clumps of brown and dark green blend with the settling ash of misery, all woven together in a tapestry of every shade of darkness.
Cassia frowns as she watches the shadows dancing in the corners. Yeah. You mentioned not being alone in the darkness of the artifact. Was it a figment of a clouded reason, or was there really someone else with you? I don't specifically remember that, but it does sound slightly familiar. But I don't remember what she said regarding the second presence.
It was real, Lord Captain. I must confess, I have been hounded by eerie strangers for many years. In my dreams, visions, and warp scryings, they try to reach me. They are tormented. They shout something I cannot make out. And one of those strangers the most frightening one is a woman who always stands aside and merely looks on in disapproval.
A dejected silence hangs in the air. Finally, the Lady Navigator says, "So we know she has a special object embedded in her heart, I believe, that came from her mother that allows her to control the rest of House Orsilio. And I'm wondering if that item still had that connection, even here, even in that artifact, that allowed her to still have a connection to the rest of the house and to her mother. I'm guessing that's the woman who always stands aside, merely looking on in disapproval."
Unlike the others, her image manifested itself more clearly each time. The refined features of her elderly face, the long white hair, the empty eye sockets glowing scarlet, and a third eye, the eye of a navigator. Once, in the middle of a warp voyage, the old woman dashed toward me and started strangling me. Praised be his mercy, for I was able to banish her to the fringes of my consciousness at that moment. However, that only angered the old woman.
Castia's shoulders shake from the memories flooding in. Huh. We're definitely getting a lot more lore here about what she's dealing with than we've gotten in the past.
I began to see her ever more often, in shadows, at the edge of my vision, in my own reflection. And it was she, too, who waited for me in the darkness of the homunculus's cage. I know it for certain. Now, you know the last of my secrets, Lord Captain. Do you think I'm going insane?
Cassia sighs dejectedly and covers her eyes with her hand. And you don't know the old woman. The old woman resembles you a little too much, don't you think? I do not believe you are insane, but I am also at a loss to explain what's happening, or yes, you've definitely lost your mind. The thing is, if it was her mother, surely she has seen pictures of her mother that should allow her to recognize the woman. A resemblance would make sense. Either that or it's some sort of future premonition of herself, but I doubt that. The old woman resembles you a little too much, don't you think? I'm going to go with the awareness statement.
I had the same exact thoughts. But is that not a wild conjecture, even for a navigator? Or am I simply going insane, as unworthy scions of my family have?
Cassie's voice with despair. She looks you in the eye, as if expecting a refutation of her misgivings. Wish I could go through some of those other options as well, because it'd be nice to tell her that no, I don't think she's insane. I think there's some connection to her people and her mother. That seems the most logical answer to me. I'm gonna say this just to see the options, but I hope it doesn't come out as harsh sounding as it looks. I've been through quite a bit of pain on your account. I don't like how that sounds.
And yet, you did not abandon me in the darkness, even though you could have. You did not end my life, even though your heart was in the grip of a coal-black vice, and your reason was enmeshed in a crimson web.
Cassie averts her eyes, trying to hide her burning shame behind her shock of disheveled hair.
You gave me the strength to cast off the shackles that Felix Cunning had closed around my soul, to tear down the prison of my own fears. And I wish to repay you in kind. To cast the fading purple of this place from your shoulders. To break the brown collar that is choking you. That is, of course, if you permit me to.
Cassie extends a hand towards your forehead, stopping halfway. The brown color that is choking me. I am curious what she means. Do not dare touch me with your abhorrent powers. Wow. I accept your care, or just close our eyes and give in to Cassia's will. Yeah, I will close my eyes and give in to Cassia's will. Cassia's cool palm touches your forehead lightly, and a maelstrom of colors comes flooding into your consciousness. Your feelings and emotions change under the onslaught of a will that is not yours. The sensation is familiar, but this time the process is different. Soft, painless, perhaps even pleasurable. Fatigue drains out of your shoulders fast. Next, the pain in your exhausted muscles subsides, and each breath you take fills your chest with an increasing sense of confidence.
This is much better, isn't it?
Sounds like it. Well, thank you. We shall escape this place soon.
Try not to squander that sky blue fabric of hope, Lord Captain. For others' colors too lighten when they are close to you.
Thank you. So no status effect changes from that. Yeah, I don't know. Alright, Ulfar. What's your story?
Let us raise our cups at Vater, in honor of deeds accomplished and in expectation of those yet to come.
Why do you call me Et Vater?
This is the name given on Fenris to a pack father, a commander or captain. An Et Vater answers to a Jarl, the commander of a great company. Since you are the one who commands your crew, and I follow you at present, I am granting you the honored title of Et Vater.
I could never presume to give orders to one of the Emperor's angels. You should be in command. There's some truth to that. But I'm not going to give up command. Thank you for this honor. A fine addition to the list. Sounds rather savage. You should call me your lordship, or nod wordlessly. Thank you for this honor.
Be worthy of it, and see that you do not disgrace this glorious rank.
How are you planning on getting out of here?
I have had a few thoughts on that score, but don't try to pry them out of me. When the time comes, I will share them with you.
The giant space marine casts you a sidelong look, grinning broadly. Wiley's self-satisfaction is writ large upon his harsh features, though he tries to hide it. Despite his worthy attempt to play the fool, the space wolf cannot deceive you. Ulfar does not fully trust you and is carefully observing your reaction. Okay. Not terribly surprising. I wouldn't fully trust anyone met here, because, like we saw with the Commissar, even the most upstanding people could just be a ploy to trick you. Why do you devour your enemies?
Why do you think?
The giant space marine grins, baring his teeth, and inquires innocently. Why do I think? Could be hunger, but it didn't seem like it. You guys might have some sort of belief that eating your enemies grants you strength. There are many cultures that have had similar views. I don't know. The Omophagia is clearly involved here, the genetic gift granted to the Astartes by the Emperor. The organ links the brain and stomach of a space marine, allowing him to absorb information from the genetic code of any flesh he consumes. Wow. That's convenient. So you get information by eating information from the genetic code by eating your enemies. That is a weird organ. It has to do with the Omophagia, yes? You're not being fed enough, that or you simply enjoy it. It's a means of tricking your captors. I have some fairly grisly ideas. Yeah, it has to do with the Omophagia, yes? I am probably mispronouncing that, but that's fine.
You are very well informed. Far more than a common mortal ought to be. Yes, it is true that I have gorged on the flesh of my enemies to reap the secrets from the steaming flavor of their meat. I have slain many xenos and feasted on their flesh. My captors have watched me do it and taken glee in it, while I have been gathering information and planning my escape.
Tell me about your brothers, the Space Wolves.
Not everyone is granted the right to ask such questions, but you, I shall allow it. What do you want to know about the Astartes from the glorious Fenris?
Who are the Space Wolves? Fenris, what is it like? In icons I have seen, Astartes look much less wild. I mean, he's a Space Wolf. Of course he's going to look wild. Your Space Marine chapter, you're far from orthodox, or my curiosity has been satisfied. Hopefully we get to ask all of these. Who are the Space Wolves?
Vilka Fenrika. That is our name in the old tongue of our world. We are the fiercest of the All-Father's warriors. His executioners. His retribution.
This guttural pronouncement sounds primordial and ruthless. I'm guessing the All-Father is the Emperor. You're claiming to be the fiercest of all of the Space Marines. I bet the other chapters have something to say about that, but sure.
Our fearless Wolf King is Lehman Russ, son of the All-Father. Our world is Fenris, and our home the Fang, which rises from the world's spine into orbit. We are the thunder in the bloody storm of battle that calls to us. That is who we are.
Ulfar's rumbling voice seems to reverberate in your very bones. I've heard of Lehman Russ as one of the Primarchs. Don't know a ton about him, but I know the name. Glory to the Wolves of Fenris. I never imagined the Emperor's Angels would be such savages. You Fenrisians seem to bring wolves into everything. Yeah. Glory to the Wolves of Fenris. Smiling satisfaction, the wolf graces you with a magnanimous nod.
But there is more to our spirit than grim destruction alone. In the Hall of Heroes, we hold feasts the likes of which you will see nowhere else. To thundering laughter, we raise our horns, tell our sagas, and honor our glorious fallen. Though the body of an Astartes is built to be immune to the effects of drink, we invented a way around this taboo. The mead we brew can overcome even our blood. It makes us drunk, and makes our feasts jovial occasions. Mead. You can brew it nowhere else but on good old Fenris. No other world is home to such poisonous plants.
Ulfar's voice drops to a conspiratorial whisper. So they're supposed to be immune to the effects of most poisons, including alcohol. But they managed to find a poisonous plant that is poisonous enough that when brewed, it can get even them drunk. Which means it would just straight up kill any mortal, like any normal person. Alright, Fenris, what is it like?
Fenris is home. A harsh land of harsh winters and harsh people. When comes the Hell Winter, a fearsome season of frosts, the merciless world sea freezes, and great white bears, snow wyrms, and ice trolls go on the hunt. Then the murderous frost retreats, and boats of harpooners sail out to ply their craft, capturing sea snakes and krakens.
Sounds like an epic world that I hope we never have to visit. The giant's gaze thaws. Yeah, there's a lot of dangerous stuff you've mentioned.
And then comes the season of fire. Volcanoes awaken. Waves wash over whole islands, and only the land of Asaheim offers salvation to those whose blood and grit win them the right to live upon it. Clan fights clan. Crows circle over battlefields, and wolf howls rise up to the sky. That is my beloved home. There is no place in the universe like it.
Ulfar concludes wistfully. So, is that like their yearly seasons? It goes from harsh winter where the sea freezes and trolls and worms and whatnot run out and hunt, and then in summer volcanoes, like every year it goes through that full cycle? Or are these like a lot rarer occurrences? Who knows? Clan fighting clan and crows circling over battlefields. My limited knowledge of Astartes, I believe that on their homeworld, they do have a lot of just ordinary people. And the ordinary people are constantly fighting to prove themselves, and the strongest and best of the people gets chosen after trials to be granted the various genetic organs and whatnot that turns them, and whatever the procedure is, that turns them into a space marine. But they start out as normal people that have proven themselves. So that's probably what he's talking about here, is that just ordinary people, clans fighting its clans over massive battlefields to survive on the tiny bit of land that remains. And those who survive are, I guess, on the first step to proving themselves worthy to become a space marine.
Tell me, Edfater, what is the most fearsome foe on Fenris?
Wily glint appears in Ulfar's eye. I would guess the space marine. Lore Imperium test failed. Fenris is known as a death world for good reason. There must be dozens of lethal creatures that inhabit the planet, but which is more fearsome than all the rest? The cold, the ocean, humans, wolves. Most fearsome foe is treachery. Some kind of huge monster that rules over all the others. The Lord of the Ice Trolls. Space Marine's not an option. Though usually humans, all things considered. And you could claim the Space Marine is human. But I would guess that the people on Fenris have learned to survive and beat all the various other monsters. And so the only challenge left that they're fighting amongst themselves, clan fighting clan. So I'm going to still go with humans.
It is true that humans are more dangerous than any animal, but true terror does not come garbed in familiar flesh and blood.
Did he ask which is the most terrifying? What is the most fearsome? I suppose. I read that more to be which is the most dangerous, but if he was meaning it as written of which enemy creates the most fear, creates the most terror, then yeah, maybe not humans. I don't know.
The curse of the Wolfen is the most fearsome and most terrible foe on Fenris. In the heart of every brother, there lives a dark beast, bloody and forever ravenous. He hungers to kill, not for glory or duty, or his battle brothers, but solely for the sake of killing. For he who falls to that dark beast, there is no joy or thrill in slaughter. There is but dull rancor.
The curse of the Wolfen. I don't know. Not sure exactly what he's talking about. But it sounds like it's just that every Space Marine has the potential to fall into a battle frenzy, not caring about glory or duty, but just the joy of killing, the thrill of the slaughter. Well, no, I guess they're supposed to have... Those who fall to it no longer have the joy or thrill in the slaughter. just dull rancor. I don't know. In icons I've seen, Astartes look much less wild.
Our gene seed is unique. Layman Ross blessed us with the Canis Helix, a genetic gift that heightens our senses, making them sharper than those of brothers from other chapters. The Canis Helix kindles a bloodthirst in our hearts and changes our appearance to resemble the lethal wolves of Fenris.
Yeah, so each Primarch granted their chapters a different gene seed that has their own unique abilities based on the Primarch. And I don't know how that got designed. I don't know if Leman Russ is uniquely wolfish, and so when he passed on his genes, it had that wolfish trait, or if that was something he picked. Again, I don't know a ton about the Astartes. But yeah, they each have their own oddities. Like the Blood Angels having their sort of vampiric aspect. And I guess you guys have heightened senses and a more wolfish appearance. For a Space Marine chapter, you are far from orthodox.
The wolves do not take orders from outsiders. We keep the old ways, not the Codex Astartes. We fight in packs, and we are trained and healed by our wise rune and wolf priests. We do not find honor in adorning ourselves in laurels, but instead etch the full names of our fallen kin as a promise of vengeance, and draw strength from that promise.
So there's a Codex Astartes, which is presumably a set of rules that Astartes are supposed to follow, based on the name. And they don't follow them. They keep some sort of old ways, whatever that means, rather than the rules established for the Astartes. Interesting. What do you believe in?
We believe in the great wolves, in the deadly Blackbane and fierce Drakan the Thunderwolf, in the redoubtable Hagar the Mountain Wolf, and in the Bloodied Hunter, in the wolf that stalks between stars, who follows us wherever we may go, and in the uncanny two-headed Morkai, guard of the realm of the dead. Of the great wolves, some show us their favor. Others are more malign. But each teaches us a lesson. For that, we praise and honor them.
Yeah, I was wondering the same question. Does that mean you do not believe in the immortal emperor of humanity as a god? Because they talk about... He spoke of the Allfather. I'm assuming that's the emperor. But when asked what they believe in, he doesn't state the Allfather, he talks about the wolves. Do you not believe in the immortal emperor of humanity as a god?
The Allfather is not a god. He is the best of all humans, our perfect forebear. His blood flowed through the veins of Layman Ross, and Ross's blood flows in me. Does that make me a god? My respect for him has no end, and I am ready to die for him. But what place does faith have here? Is the All-Father like the massive iron wolf, whose every tuft of fur forms a mountain on the surface of Fenris?
Ulfar heaves his mighty shoulders. So yeah, they don't worship the Emperor as a god. And again, my knowledge of the Astartes is from the Horus Heresy, and I know from back in that time, the Emperor was very much not considered a god. And really, it was just the very start of some people starting to worship him as a god, and that was considered apostasy and heresy, because the Emperor had made it very clear that there were no gods. And that's what was being taught as they spread humanity, is that there were no gods, and the Emperor certainly wasn't a god. And there were just minor cults that started worshipping the Emperor. So, yeah, I guess it doesn't surprise me that some or maybe all Astartes chapters don't view the Emperor as a god because of how close of a connection they have to him. I mean, as he describes it, he essentially sees the Emperor as sort of a grandfather figure. And therefore not to humanity. Like humans, the Emperor is, you know, a god sitting on his throne on Terra. Terra itself being a holy place. But if you're able to just say, yeah, my blood comes from Leman Russ, and Leman Russ is the son of the Emperor, does that make me a god? It's like, okay, I can see from that perspective that you... And to us mortals, it's like, no, we wouldn't call you a god, but there's a reason you're called an angel. You definitely are a step apart from the rest of us because you've got the Emperor's blood, you know, twice removed in you.
Or is he as enormous as the sun wolf, which rises to hunt every morning and fills our world with light? The All-Father is not a god, but the highest of humanity. Ordinary humans struggle to grasp this. But we, his warriors and offspring, remember the truth.
Okay. That makes sense. If they're basing their belief off of kind of what it was from the start of the Astartes, then yeah, the Astartes were formed in a time where the Emperor was not a god. No one considered him a god. Well, I believe the Emperor is the god of humanity and our guardian. You speak blasphemy. What a primitive, barbarous religion. I also believe the Emperor is a man, not a god. Harsh. Definitely not. A different faith, but the same old idiocy. No, I'm just going to say my perspective. I believe the Emperor is the god of humanity and our guardian.
Believe what you wish, Edvater. The All-Father never wanted us to revere him as a god, but we are not ordinary men. I do not know what his intentions were for the rest of you.
He also didn't want ordinary mortals to worship him as a god. But, you know, 10,000 years of sitting on a throne, unable to state your opinions. People believe what they want. What else do your wise priests do?
The Khan the Ruined Wolf once shared the mysteries of the healing potions and the secrets of magic sagas. He taught them to see the past and future in throne runes, to call down storms, and to carve powerful talismans.
Huh. I can understand healing potions, assuming those are in some way similar to the idea of stims and whatnot. Seeing the past and future in throne runes. Again, if you have psykers, that's definitely a thing. Yeah. A lot of this, I think, depending on what you're meaning with it, could be real and not just heresy. You suddenly feel a whisper of something menacing radiating from Ulfar. A necklace of various formidable-looking teeth hangs around his neck, and the teeth are carved with intricate runes. Because typically when we see runes carved with a connection to the warp, it's almost always chaos worship. But obviously, the Space Wolves aren't chaos worshippers. So maybe there's some wholly good aligned warp runes? I don't know. Point to the wolf necklace Ulfar is wearing. Is that a powerful charm?
The All-Father gifted you with strong intuition. This was made by Skjati Twice-Thinker. The spirits liked him and one could feast a whole long Hellwinter night to the words of his saga. So keen was his mind. He was my friend.
Ulfar's face, lit a moment ago with ruthless pride, seems to darken as if a shadow passed across it. So probably one of your battle brothers who has fallen. You spoke of full names that give you strength. What is your name in that case? Are you willing to tell me, or is it a secret that you need to protect except with your own battle brothers? I don't know. What is your name?
Ulfar Redmane. That is what my brothers call me.
Okay. I was expecting a full name to be longer, I guess. Ulfar Redmane. Makes sense. Given the warrior's boastful nature, the indifference with which he revealed his name is surprising. It seems he does not trust you enough to disclose his true name. Okay. That's fair. So, as I suspected, he wasn't willing to give me his true full name. I understand.
Do you? And there I was, about to round off my story with a short 400-verse saga about the gifts of Lacan the Ruined Wolf.
I would appreciate that, though it would take time. My curiosity has been satisfied.
Should what I told you reach other ears, I shall take your tongue.
Ulfar leans towards you and with a friendly, only slightly feral grin, says, "Yeah, I can keep a secret. I don't know how much of that I'm not allowed to tell, because a lot of it seemed like reasonably common knowledge. How did you end up here?"
What do you want to know? What brought the space wolves to the Expanse? Or how I ended up in the non-human's dark city?
Both, actually. We do know that the Inquisition called a couple of chapters... Not chapters. He called some Space Marines here, and I'm guessing him and some of his battle brothers were at least part of that group that came here. Why did you come to the Koronus Expanse?
An inquisitor by the name of Calcazar put out a call for aid. My wolf lord did not refuse him, and had 2 packs deployed to the Expanse. We never trusted this ally, but a blood debt for a service rendered in the past forced our hand.
Aha. You don't trust the Inquisitor. That is very interesting, because Inquisitors are usually held on very high esteem just for being Inquisitors. You didn't trust him, but for a blood debt you were forced to do what he asked. Weird. Okay. Failed the lore Imperium test. Problem is, we're making all these tests ourselves, and we only have one skill that we're actually reasonably qualified in. So, yeah. We had a 0% chance to succeed at this one, and shockingly, we did not succeed. The Inquisition wields immense powers. The entire chapter might have come to the Koronus Expanse had Calcazar requested it. What debt did you owe to the Inquisitor? I definitely hope I can ask about why you do not trust the Inquisitor. What debt do you owe the Inquisitor?
He saved our brother who had lost the pack and was unable to look after himself or the chapter's honor. Calcazar returned our brother to Fenris and kept secret the misfortune that had befallen him. The Jarl knew that the Inquisitor's actions were driven by opportunism and the desire to have us mighty warriors in his debt. But honor forced him to be hospitable to the stranger and swear an oath of friendship.
Ulfar's voice turns cagey. Yeah, so the Inquisitor was not doing it because it was right. He did it because it was a good opportunity to have a favor owed, which is kind of how the Inquisitor dealt with us, where he's, you know, I will ignore the slights of you having a unsanctioned psyker and an Eldari in your party so that you will help me in the future with what I need. It's a similar idea where he's not doing necessarily exactly what by the rules he's supposed to do, but instead is just setting up future opportunities. Maybe that's why they don't trust him, because he's not just a very hard and fast follow the rules Inquisitor. And Inquisitors don't have to be. They, like rogue traders, have some flexibility where they don't have to follow the strict rules of the Imperium. For the sake of the Imperium, they can break the rules or bend the rules a bit. Why did the Space Wolves not trust the Lord Inquisitor?
The Inquisition. Pah! Rats scurrying around the Allfather's house and ruling it in the Master's absence. Cowards they are. The last into battle, but the first on any war council. We saw what they were worth in the months of shame.
Ulfar nearly spits out the words. Yeah, they're definitely more information gatherers. And then once they have sufficient information, they try and direct how things will occur. But most of them are not, you know, main combatants like a space angel. So I can definitely see why they would stand in the back gathering information and then try and direct where the Astartes go to fight. I don't know what the months of shame are. I hope he lets us know. Lord Imperium test failed. Of course it did. We had a 20% chance on that. You've never heard of the months of shame. It is probably something from Fenrisian history. What are the months of shame?
An ancient strife. If you do not know of it, then you are not supposed to know.
Ah, shame. I've also met Xavier Calcazar, and I trust him. Calcazar had ideas above his station. He dared to speak to me without proper respect. I do not trust Calcazar. He is suspicious. You've explained everything. Yeah. Do I trust Calcazar? For the moment, I don't think there's anything that directly makes me not trust him, but there is some oddities about him. I'm not going to complain that he spoke to me above his station. Inquisitors do what they want, and they can command rogue traders. That is well within their rights. I'll say I trust him. I think for the moment, I think that's a fair statement of my position, but I won't be terribly surprised if it turns out that there is something questionable about him later. I've also met Xavier Calcazar, and I trust him.
Do not be taken in, Edfater. His words are persuasive. But until I see the blood trophies that prove his valor and loyalty, I will not be putting my back to him.
Again, just because someone's not a warrior or collecting blood trophies does not mean they're not doing good. There's much to be said about intelligence gathering and then directing war efforts from the back.
That arrogant chief thought he could give us orders. But we wolves have always followed our own instincts and hunted in our own way. I wager that boiled his blood.
The red-haired space wolf chuckles smugly. Yeah, you didn't follow his orders, and you found yourself separated from your crew and in Camorra. Would that have happened if you had followed his orders? I'm just saying. I'm not sure that you made the right choice there. What do you know of Xavier Calcazar's plans and objectives?
In warm furs, the old man does shroud his body. In cloaks of secrets woven, shrouds the sly man his plans. To know his dire purpose, swallow not the words of poison, but his gristle.
Huh. In other words, you don't know or you aren't going to tell me, but he's cloaked in secret and you can't know his plans and objectives by listening to his words. You have to swallow his gristle, which I'm going to assume from your mind is that sort of the idea of don't listen to what he says, look at what he does. Try and figure out who he is as a whole. I can get behind that. How did you end up a captive?
We had gone on a raid for xenos prisoners and fell into a trap. We had no war machines to support us, and some of our squad were wounded. So we were forced to retreat. I ordered my battle brothers to leave, but I remained behind to meet our guests. I do not know how many of the feeble wretches I slew, but I would have killed even more had their towering piles of bodies not hindered me in combat.
Tripping over the bodies of those you'd killed. Fantastic.
They wounded me and captured me. They froze the joints in my armor. When they dragged me to their ship, 2 of my battle brothers descended upon the xenos and tried to free me. An insane plan, but it almost succeeded. Almost. And so, there were 3 of us taken captive. And then there were 2. And then I was alone once again.
He heaves a sigh and it comes out like a growl, and a grimace of pain is fixed on Ulfar's face, which is shadowed with grief. Huh. From my, again, limited understanding of Astartes, when one of them falls, the rest are supposed to do whatever they can to get the body to an apothecary, which is a rank of an Astartes, or a specific type of Astartes. They're medics. And that medic is able to extract the gene seed because they need to hold on to those. I think they have a limited amount, or they're hard to make new ones or something. In some way, they need to collect the gene seeds because it's a limited resource, so that they can then put it into the next generation of Space Marines. So if 2 of them have died here, he should be putting a lot of effort into trying to retrieve their gene seeds. Or at least retrieve their bodies, or at least the gene seed, to bring back when he leaves. What happened to the other 2?
They fell with honor.
I assume they were probably also forced to fight in the arena. Or maybe they were cut upon by that guy who was just trying to learn about how Space Marine physiology works. The guy who was keeping Ulfar prisoner as well. Your fallen brothers, who were they?
Their saga is one I will not sing to you. You have spilled no blood with them, nor shared with them meat unmilled. Their spirits might be outraged if they knew I had sung of their deeds to a stranger.
Fair. Ulfar lets out a sullen growl and pins you with an icy glance that sparks something within you. Awareness of the monstrous chasm separating you and the ancient superhuman standing opposite. I'm sorry that they died.
Yes, so am I.
Tell me of your time in Komorra.
These are dark days you are asking about, Ed Fatter. Let my keen-edged friend be a witness to the ferocity of my words.
Ulfar lets out a rumbling sigh, draws out the rune-covered knife that you saw him carry in the Dark City, and begins to spin it between his fingers, finding his equilibrium again.
I was given to Tarvantius for his amusement. In the arenas of Camorra, Astartes are a rarity. And he sent me out there to kill gladiators. Living as an inglorious butcher and a xenos' puppet, I hated it. Constantly. Every moment. I had to take care of my mind before it was twisted to the seven hells.
With every word, the bitterness and hostility in Ulfar's voice grows. Then after an roaring and raging in Fenrisian for a time, Ulfar catches his breath.
Every morning I made entreaties to the Allfather, and every night I appealed to Russ. I trained my body, read the litanies, and in the darkest moments, I recited my own saga. I recalled every battle, every wound, every brother. And that is how I survived.
The red-haired space wolf fixes you with a fierce...
I always survive.
with a fierce glower and then turns away. So he does make entreaties to the Allfather and to Lehman Russ, which, to my mind, sounds almost like a prayer to a god. But he clearly doesn't seem to see it quite the same way. But if you're locked in a cage and making entreaties to a being on the other side of the galaxy, that sounds like a prayer. So he has some sort of worship, even if he doesn't want to call it worshipping the Emperor. And you know what? I don't know how long he's been here, but we, a strong follower of the Emperor, ended up here to rescue him. So it seems like his entreaties worked. I see.
This was a bleak saga, Edvator.
I wonder if this is just going to take me to those same questions. Answer a few questions about yourself.
Instinct bids me to remain silent. Such knowledge is not to be shared with just anyone. Only those who possess my complete trust.
Ulfar sucks in a breath, tasting your scent. Alright, I must take my leave.
Fenris Hylda, Edvator.